The hotel says less than 50 full-time employees are being laid off as part of a decision to restructure part of their operations.
More layoffs at MGM Resorts. Hundreds of workers tonight now out of a job.
Airline bookings and future hotel bookings starting to drop somewhat, both internationally and domestically.
The neon glow of the Las Vegas Strip has seen bankruptcies, scandals, and billion-dollar failures before. But nothing prepared the city for this A-resort that was supposed to be the crown jewel of modern Las Vegas. A project that devoured $3.7 billion is now at the center of one of the most shocking collapses in recent casino history. Not because the building fell, but because the business behind it did. Spectacularly, publicly, and with consequences that stretch far beyond Nevada. The Fontainebleau. Las Vegas was meant to be a symbol of rebirth. A project interrupted by the 2008 financial crisis, revived more than a decade later with promises of luxury, stability, and a new era for North America's entertainment capital. Instead, it has become the newest face of what happens when financial ambition collides with economic reality.
Blue announced some layoffs. Resorts World announced some layouts.
Okay, a lot of the big hotels like Fontainebleau and Resorts World, the new ones, started laying off workers.
All right, we got to talk about Las Vegas because we're seeing a crap ton of layoffs, a lot of people out of work.
The trouble didn't erupt overnight. It grew quietly inside boardrooms, loan documents, and construction schedules that were always running behind. Investors kept asking why a property this expensive wasn't generating the numbers they expected. Why the cost kept climbing. Why the building that took years to finish still operated like a project rushing to catch up. And why a resort billed as the future of Las Vegas luxury could barely keep pace with a market now crowded with properties fighting for the same customers. When the first whispers of financial distress emerged, many dismissed them as typical growing pains. A new mega resort always needs time to stabilize, but when insiders began hinting that certain debts could no longer be serviced, that budgets were being restructured week to week, and that management was struggling to plug holes faster than they were opening, the story took a darker turn. Behind the glittering facade, Fontainebleau was burning cash at an extraordinary rate. Operational costs were far higher than projected revenue from rooms, nightlife, and gaming lagged behind expectations. And the expensive, ultra-modern design, once marketed as its competitive advantage, became a financial anchor, requiring constant upkeep and enormous staffing levels. Every month the resort operated at a deficit, the pressure grew, and that pressure soon pulled the entire financial structure to a breaking point. What made this collapse especially devastating was how quickly confidence evaporated. Investors who had poured hundreds of millions into the project suddenly found themselves staring at income statements with red ink stretching across the page. Bankers began tightening terms. Suppliers started demanding earlier payments. And inside the management team, panic was quietly spreading, as internal forecasts revealed the resort was on track to lose far more than expected. The warning signs intensified when multiple contractors filed delayed payment claims, a serious red flag for any billion-dollar property. Once those filings hit the public record, analysts began digging deeper. They discovered something stunning. The $3.7 billion that had gone into construction and final development wasn't generating anything close to the revenue required to support that level of investment. In the world of mega resorts, financial structure is everything. Once the math stops working, the whole system shakes. Soon the cracks became too large to hide. Financial documents showed rising debt pressure and declining liquidity. The resort began slashing marketing budgets and delaying expansions that had been loudly promoted just months earlier. Employees described shifts being reduced, entertainment projects being paused, and internal directives urging departments to cut all non-essential spending. Then came the moment no one wanted to talk about: the possibility that the Fontainebleau might face a restructuring or a full-scale financial collapse. For Las Vegas, the implications were enormous. a brand new multi-billion-dollar luxury resort failing so soon after opening would send a chilling message to the entire industry. It would raise questions about the stability of the Strip, the vulnerability of tourism-dependent economies, and the long-standing belief that Las Vegas always bounces back, no matter how hard the fall. Economists quickly jumped on the story, pointing out that the modern Las Vegas business model is far more delicate than it appears. Operating a mega resort requires a perfect balance: consistent tourism, strong conventions, high-end entertainment, and a resilient flow of international visitors. But the post-pandemic economy introduced new threats. Inflation pushed operational costs to record highs. Competition increased. The cost of borrowing money skyrocketed. And visitor spending became unpredictable as consumers across the US and Canada tightened their budgets. Fontainebleau entered this storm carrying one of the heaviest financial burdens in Strip history. It had to outperform immediately. Instead, it stumbled. Publicly and expensively, industry insiders began comparing the situation to previous Las Vegas disasters, including the infamous 2008 halt that froze the original Fontainebleau. Construction mid-tower, nobody expected history to repeat itself. Yet here it was again, a property cursed not by architecture, but by economics. As news spread, investors started distancing themselves. Some requested emergency meetings. Others quietly sold their positions. The sense of confidence that once surrounded the Fontainebleau turned into fear. Fear that the property had become too expensive to operate, too costly to maintain, and too heavily leveraged to survive without intervention. For a resort of this size, collapse doesn't happen in a single moment. It unfolds in slow, painful steps. A missed payment here, a downgraded credit rating there, a sudden wave of executive departures, and finally, public acknowledgement that the numbers don't add up. Behind the scenes, financial teams were trying to renegotiate debt, restructure obligations, and reassure lenders that the resort could stabilize. But with every passing month, the gap between revenue and debt obligations widened. Some financial analysts argued that the entire model had been flawed from the start. They questioned why developers spent billions trying to recreate an ultra-luxury concept at a time when travelers were shifting toward more experience-driven, tech-focused, and cost-conscious options. Others claimed the project was overbuilt, too large, too expensive, and too dependent on a level of spending that no longer reflects the modern tourist economy. The collapse wasn't just about money, it was about trust. The Strip's reputation as a safe haven for massive investment took a hit. And the ripple effects spread quickly. Smaller developers paused new projects. Investors added new layers of caution to their risk models. Financial institutions began reevaluating how they lend to mega resorts. Local businesses felt the shock too. Suppliers who depended on Fontainebleau contracts saw revenue evaporate. Workers worried about layoffs. Rideshare drivers, performers, restaurant partners, all braced for impact. A mega resort isn't just a building, it's an ecosystem. And when the center collapses, everything around it trembles. Even beyond Nevada, the story mattered. Canadian investors, some of whom backed elements of the Fontainebleau's final development, suddenly found themselves exposed to losses. Canadian banks with stakes in U.S. hospitality lending issued statements emphasizing caution. And in cities like Vancouver and Toronto, where real estate megaprojects often follow Las Vegas trends, analysts warned that Fontainebleau's collapse could become a case study in the dangers of oversized ambition. Meanwhile, across the border in the U.S., the collapse reignited national conversations about debt, inflation, and the financial fragility of the entertainment industry. Podcasts, financial shows, and economic analysts dissected what went wrong. Was it mismanagement? Overconfidence? A failure to understand post-pandemic consumer behavior? Or was it simply the inevitable result of building a $3.7 billion property in an economy that no longer supports mega-scale luxury. Inside the resort, employees describe the atmosphere as tense. Beautiful hallways lined with marble and glass, but behind the scenes, meetings filled with uncertainty and anxiety. Department heads were told to prepare for operational adjustments. Some contractors stopped bidding on work related to the property. Others demanded advance payments before lifting a single tool. The Strip, famous for reinvention, seemed stunned. Resorts rise and fall all the time, but a financial collapse of a brand new flagship property is rare and deeply unsettling. As analysts look ahead, the question isn't whether Fontainebleau will survive in some form. The real question is who will pay the price for its downfall: investors, lenders, workers, or the city of Las Vegas itself. The collapse is more than a business failure. It's a warning, a sign of how fragile even the biggest projects have become in a volatile economy. A reminder that no amount of glass, steel, or luxury branding can overcome the laws of financial gravity. In the end, the Fontainebleau story isn't just about a resort. It's about the cost of ambition, the danger of unchecked optimism, and the reality that even the brightest lights on the Strip can dim in an instant. For a project that once symbolized hope and revival, its collapse now represents something far more sobering. A turning point for Las Vegas, a shock to investors across North America, and a wake-up call to anyone who believes that billion-dollar dreams are immune to billion-dollar risks. And as the city continues to glow outside its windows, the Fontainebleau stands as a reminder that behind every light on the Strip, there's a shadow. And sometimes that shadow is cast by a $3.7 billion downfall.